What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 31 Days of Horror. I am your host, Moon616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, 31 Days of Horror Volume 8, Day 13, coming at you live and direct. Alright, so we're going to go from the US, and we're going to take a trip over to Japan with a fairly modern movie. I think this one came out in 2022. Unearthed Films released it last year in 2023. And it sounded right up my alley because I'm a huge fan of like psychological horror slash like, you know, body horror slash self-mutilation, that type of things. I like those things. And this one seemed like it was going to really have it all. So, but yeah, again, from 2022, we have a film called The Sound of Summer. Yes. And this one made me laugh. So it says, edited by Guy, written by Guy, produced by Guy, directed by Guy, cinematography by Guy. So the director of this film literally did everything on this movie except for like the special effects and stuff. I looked him up and he's also known as Guy Pearce. And we're not talking about the American or the actor Guy Pearce. Totally different guy, but he goes by Guy, which is really funny actually for, I'm assuming, a Japanese director. So anyways, The Sound of Summer. So basically the premise of this one, it follows our main character who is actually unnamed in the movie. It's so bizarre. I don't think any of the characters in this movie actually have names. And about halfway through the movie, I actually looked it up on IMDb, and not one of the actors has a character name listed on IMDb, so I was actually not missing that. So anyways, it follows our main character who's on the back here. And it's like the dead of summer, and it's super, super hot out. It's like 40 degrees, like 100, Fahrenheit kind of thing. And she's suffering from that. She can't sleep. And to make things worse, the cibadas, they're like a really big kind of insect and stuff. During the summer, they make a lot of noise, hence they sing. And it's just driving her up the fucking wall. The sound is killing her. She can't sleep. She's starting to go like into psychosis and shit like that. Anyways, she works at a coffee shop one day, and there was this guy in the coffee shop who was like collecting these cibada bugs and stuff like that. And they kind of make fun of him and, shit like that. And, kind of fast forward a couple days later, she wakes up one day and she's got like all these sores and cuts and all these bruises and like all these kind of weird things all over her body. So the girl that she works with suggests like, go get this checked out at the doctor's office to see if, something bit you or what's going on with this. So she goes to the doctor, and he basically kind of plays it off like it's nothing, gives her some sleeping pills and stuff like that. Anyway, she goes back home, and then things just start to spiral completely out of control. And I'll just leave the synopsis right there. So my thoughts on this movie, again, another really, really short movie. This one only runs about 75 minutes, but I feel like the runtime in this one is actually pretty perfect because, given that synopsis, there's not a lot of plot, there's not a lot of narrative. It basically just follows our main character here and her kind of descent into madness. And this one is one of those pieces that really doesn't rely on a lot of dialogue. In fact, there's not really a lot of dialogue in the movie. There's not really a lot of characters. We have our Sabata guy. We have, her friend that works at the coffee shop. We have her and a couple other characters and some flashback scenes. But there's really not a lot of characters, so there's not a lot of, actual dialogue in this movie to kind of push it forward. This one solely relies on heavy visuals, heavy soundtrack and sound, the Sabata sound of the bugs, and just this overwhelming thundering score throughout the whole film and stuff like that. So it's a very visual, audio effective film and stuff like that. So, and I'm a big fan of these type of movies. I love visual type films, very good sounding films and stuff like that. And yeah, the visuals are fantastic in this one. It has all practical effects. There's even some stop motion in this, which I thought was really interesting. But yeah, the effects are awesome. So if you're into body horror, psychological stuff, self-mutilation, things like that, this one really has it all. It's kind of got like a slower build-up to it. In a sense, it kind of has a slower build-up, but then, it goes into a territory where it becomes like a special effects film, and it kind of keeps you guessing on what really exactly is going on and stuff. But I don't want to compare this one to another famous kind of body horror bug-related film, but it kind of goes into that territory a little bit, which I thought was really cool. But what really surprised me about the movie is how well shot it is and stuff. The only thing that this lacks is when there actually is audio, like dialogue audio, it's pretty low. It's hard to hear, but it is subtitled. It's in Japanese, so you're reading it anyways. But like I said, there's not really a lot of audio to the film, but that's really kind of the only critique I have on the specs of the actual movie is just the lowness of the audio. But again, like I said, you're reading the movie anyway, so it doesn't really matter, but very, very beautiful film. And yeah, it plays off all the things I really liked. Psychological elements to it. I mean, it's just blurring the lines of reality and fantasy to a point where it kind of leaves you in the end going, okay, it's pretty ambiguous. So what exactly is going on? Is it all in her head? Is it not in her head? Because we do know that the guy is real. We know that what's going on with her is possibly real and stuff like that. But is the end result actual real? So it's got that psychological horror effect to it, which I really enjoy. But what really sells this one for me, man, is the sound design and the visual practical effects are fantastic in this. Like the blood looks really good. Oh man, when she's like self-mutilating and shit, it was cringeworthy as hell. There's some nasty blood in this. Oh man, there is, and what happens with our Sabata guy, pretty cool stuff. But not really a whole lot more to report on, I mean, it's a very, very small, low budget indie type film that I think is very effective when what it's trying to do. And I like the ambiguity of the ending a little bit. I mean, it's up to you to decipher if, one way or the other, what's really going on and stuff like that. But I think that's an effective way of doing a psychological film anyways. It doesn't have to be spoon-fed to you to have an effect either way, right? So... But yeah, The Sound of Summer, man, the title's very, very appropriate. Like, it actually does feel like it's really hot there, and it feels like it's really annoying with these Sabata bugs that are singing and making all this type of noise and stuff. If you're unfamiliar with a Sabata is, it's basically like, it's like a really big insect. It flies and stuff, but they're big though. Like, I know in certain parts of the world, like, they eat them. Like, you can get full meals out of these things. And it really showcases, like, when people are grabbing them, it's like a handful. Like, they're fucking big ass bugs. It's crazy. I believe we don't have them in North America. I could be wrong. At least I don't have them up north where I am because it's probably a little bit too cold, but they are found all over the world and stuff. But they can be very, very loud in the summer. And I think, the sound design really accentuates that premise so well in this. It's done so effective. Like, I'm watching on my booming system in here and it's shaking the entire fucking house. And I'm like, damn, dude, it's really crazy. And pretty much the last like 25 minutes of this movie, there's no dialogue. It's just pure carnage, pure effects and stuff. And like I said, I was very shocked to see a little bit of stop motion. I don't know if I mentioned the stop motion, but there's a little bit of stop motion in it too, just with some vines and stuff. And I thought that was a really effective way of, putting that in with the practical effects instead of doing CG, because that would have been off-putting. I'm pretty fucking sure it was stop motion, but I thought it was really good. But overall, really fun film. I'm going to come in at a solid 8 out of 10. It's a very effective for what it is, and I highly recommend this, man. Again, it's a perfect film for me because I love visual films and practical effect films and psychological. It just has everything I love, and I love me some body horror and shit, and it's effective. It's cringeworthy at times, so, but not like overly nasty to the point where you're like gagging and shit like that. Like, there is certain films where there's a lot of goo and just nastiness and shit that kind of makes me gag, but it's not like that. It's just effective. Like, it's cringeworthy. So, but yeah, The Sound of Summer from Japan, 2022, all done by Guy. AKA Guy Pearce. So yeah, so that's gonna do it here for day 13. I'll be back with day 14, and I believe I think we're going back to the US tomorrow for a film that I really don't know much about, but we'll get into that one tomorrow. So anyways, guys, that's gonna do it here for day 13. Check in day 14, and as usual,